So thank you. I'm really glad of being here, and I would like to thank my university, CAPS Foundation, and Sir Watley and Sidar for being here and developing this work. So this is the title of my presentation. And my objectives are to propose a discussion about the possibilities of creating dance digital archives in southern Brazil, considering a situation of double decentering or twice peripheral. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So I organized this presentation in 3 moments. First, I will bring some information about Brazilian context. After, I will present the project Giving Flash to the Memory. And finally, I propose a discussion about digital dance archives. So, Brazil. Brazil is the 5th bigger and also the 5th most populous country in the world. It's almost located in a tropical area. It is big, it's beautiful, there are a lot of people, and it could be rich. Brazil is the largest national economy in Latin America, and it has one of the higher income concentration. This means a small parcel of the population detains the majority of the capital. We also have a high corruption index, and the country still has above average levels of violent crimes. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the city where I live and where I work. Porto Alegre, the city where I live and work, has nowadays a population about 1.5 million people. As you can see here, Porto Alegre is located in the southern part of Brazil. Here, I'm sorry. No, here. Yeah. in the southern part of Brazil, in the south of South America. It's about 1,400 kilometers from Porto Alegre to São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, the economic center of Brazil. Almost the same distance between Barcelona and Frankfurt, twice the distance between London and Edinburgh. And 2,100 kilometers from Porto Alegre to Brasilia, the geographic center and the national capital, the same distance between Madrid and Berlin, for example. So I consider that I speak from a perspective of double decentering or twice peripheral. Brazil in relation to Europe and North America, and Porto Alegre in relation to Brazil. So this is the city. It's a beautiful city. So now I'm going to talk about this project, Giving Flash to Memory. My interest about dance archives increased after developing the project Giving Flash to the Memory, carried out in Porto Alegre from 2009 to 2011. The project purpose was to make available a part of the contemporary dance repertoire created in southern Brazil by means of the recreation of choreographies by Eva Schuh from the 70s to the beginning of 2000. And also to gather material to organize an archive. In the 1970s, Eva Schuh was one of the first artists to work with contemporary dance and improvisation in Porto Alegre and in the southern Brazil. Since then, she created more than 70 choreographies. Eva Schuh is still teaching and creating new works in collaboration with a great number of dancers and artists. This picture is from the early 70s. So the project, Giving Flash to the Memory, have some guidelines. The first was the desire to recreate, not to reconstruct or replicate the choreographies. The embodiment of Schuh's poetics, dance technique, creative procedures, and the integration of bodily experience coming from different temporalities. Also, to work with dancers from different generations. We worked with young and with experienced and mature dancers that have been dancing with Eva Schuh since the 90s and that now have their own works as choreographers. And also to discuss about the assimilation of dance techniques coming from United States and Europe in southern Brazil. So the project had the fund. We gave a prize to develop this project. And the outcomes were 2 dance works, a seminar, 2 videos, and a blog. It estimated that around 1,400 people attended the live events. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the 2 dance works. The first one was Giving Flesh to the Memory 1, composed by 3 choreographies, danced by 14 dancers. So we had one choreography called Berro Gaúcho, danced by 14 dancers from the late 1977. The other choreography was Hall of Mirrors, from 1986, danced by 6 dancers. And the last one, Catch ou Como Segurar Instante, from 2002, danced by 8 dancers. And the other piece was Giving Flesh to the Memory 2, composed by 5 solos and 1 duo, performed by the same dancers that first co-created and performed these choreographies in the 90s. So all major dancers, we can say. And I was also there as a dancer. So one of the problems in working with dance memory and choreographic recreation, at least in Brazil, is the lack of dance archives. As many other researchers and artists, I realized that when we develop a choreographic recreation project, we build some kind of archive. But archives don't exist without the consignation of an external place that ensures the possibility of memorization, repetition, reproduction. The dance archives need other consignation places beyond the body. It's sure that with this project, Giving Flesh to the Memory, my first desire and my aim was to recognize the body as archive. But at the same time, I've always been thinking about the necessity to document and make available the work of Eva Schul and other choreographers from southern Brazil. So in 2014, I discovered CIDER, Chivon Dance Replay, the digital archive, and digital dance archives from National Resource Center for Dance, Surrey University. So I had the opportunity to apply to a grant to develop a postdoctoral research. I proposed a project with the aim of understand the dynamics of the development of these 2 digital dance archives, Chivon Davis Replay and Dance Digital Archives, seeking to understand the purpose, theoretical assumptions, criteria for selecting the repertoire, works and artists, filing procedures and methods, technologies, etc. And here I bring some aspects that justify this project. I highlight A and B. It's specific from Brazil, but I think in other countries also. Dance notation as a practice is still not widespread, both in creation and education and research environments, even in universities. And B, the dissemination of video records and sharing of these materials without proper treatment of information. So, the reasons why did I choose these archives? They were created as academic research projects. They are not based on scores. Digital dance archives came from an institutional physical archive. Chivon Davis Replay was created in deep collaboration with the choreographer and some dancers, and there was no institutional physical archive before Replay. So they are they share some things, but they are different. I'm not going to explain these projects because maybe you know them better than me. But I'm going to talk about what impressed me and how this study has helped me to think about developing digital dance archives in southern Brazil. So, as you should know, each step was well planned, the financial and human resources were well applied, the process was well documented by articles, surveys, and reports. Both archives attempt then their goals, contributing to diffuse British dance, national and internationally, and to enhance the tools to research in dance. I've been impressed with the amount of work, of course, and I confess, frightened with the amount of economic and human resources. As we can see, this is from Siobhan Davis' replay. There are at least 20 people related on the team and 2 enterprises. Well, here I have some documents that help me to work in this research. And I also interviewed Sarah, and I've been visiting Sarah Watley, and I've been visiting the archives from National Resource Center for Dance and talked to Dr. Ellen Roberts. I thank both for their attention. Well, perhaps one of the limits to working with digital archives is the availability of economic and human resources. For me, it looked almost impossible in my context to develop a project with these dimensions. So I started to think about some questions that I will share with you, and I'm certain that other presenters also will share some concerns. I started to think about what could be the relations between institutional digital dance archives and the diffusing and archiving practices used by dance artists in different contexts. So I started to be really interested about free platforms, social medias, YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, how dance artists are using these, and how I could work with a kind of hybrid archive without even needing money to build also a digital and complex environment, for example. There are a lot of people, but I like this quotation because it's in the USA context, but I think you can apply from different contexts. Large institutions have the funding and the infrastructure to preserve certain choreographic works. But the majority of dance companies and choreographers do not have access to a proper digital repository in which to store and preserve dance works. And of course, this is the case in Brazil, and more the case in my city. Okay, almost 5 minutes. So I'm going to skip and go to because I did a study, a small, and I said a modest exploratory study about how Brazilian choreographers and British artists are using these media. So there is the report, the Digital Culture 2015, that shows a little bit this. And I also did I went to look for this, and I found use of Facebook, YouTube channel, Vimeo channel, YouTube and Vimeo, a lot really spread between Brazilian and between British choreographers, of course. So, now I'm going to move to talk about the Brazilian dance archives. Just because I said there is a lack, but there is dance archives in Brazil. So I'm going to show something and to try to figure a proposition. Okay. So there is only 2 institutional dance archives. Remember, Brazil is really big and a lot of people dedicated exclusively to dance in Brazil. One of them is Acervo Recordança. It's here at the city of Recife, Pernambuco, in the northeast also of Brazil, also decentered. It was launched in 2003 and contains a physical archives and also a digital archive. But they don't have all the material available at the internet nowadays. This project is dedicated to research and document dance memory in the city, Recife, and emphasize the interrelations between videos, documents, and artists' discourse present through interviews. This is interesting. I thought Brazilian archives, they have interviews I don't know if, because you don't have practice notation, don't have so many scores, I don't know, we have an oral tradition really hard, strong. So this other archive, it's called Acervo Clausiana, also has interviews. So it's this archive is dedicated to document the life and work of Klaus Viana, dancer, choreographer, teacher, and director of some dance institutions. So these archives, it embraces at least 4 Brazilian cities where Klaus Viana lived and worked. Belo Horizonte, São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Salvador, so southeast and northeast, and they also have a physical archive. And I think it's the most achieved project of dance archive, digital dance archive in Brazil. So we have also some dance collections hosted in arts archives or libraries. So we have some examples. And we still have some projects that distinguish their activities. So, and this is the new, it's called the Museo da Danza, Dance Museum in São Paulo, a virtual museum dedicated to the preservation of Brazilian dance memory. The aim is to make available, to share dance archives from different sources. This is really started last year, so it's really new. It's in progress, and I hope they could achieve the project. So the dance archives that I presented here in Brazilian dance archives embrace the artists and works from their places and city. There are just one archive, Acervo Recordança, out of Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. Except in Acervo Klaus Viana, these archives have difficulties to reach all their aims and they remain unfinished. So I'm finishing. So considering that this is a moment of economic and political crisis in Brazil and maybe a globalized crisis. There are no institutional dance archives in southern Brazil. There are important personal particular dance archives in Porto Alegre that still remain with the artists or their families. And also considering that I've been developing some experience with archive projects, I have this question now. How about creating a digital archive related to a physical archive, trying to conceive an affordable project, and thinking about maybe this idea of hybrid repository using platforms as YouTube and Vimeo. So just to finish, really finish. Oh, sorry, but it's okay, I'm going to read. I don't look naive. I don't believe that digital archives are the final solution to dance ephemerality or the most important tool to problematize dance history and memory. I continue to believe in the dancing body as one of the best archives, and I agree with Lepecki when he writes, the current will to archiving dance as performed by reenactments derives neither exclusively from a failure in cultural memory nor from a nostalgic lens. I am proposing will to archive as to referring to a capacity to identify in a past work still not exhausted creative fields of impalpable possibilities. So this is Lepecki. And I am also aware of the critical discussions about archives and digital archives, understanding archives as both this quiet, concrete collection of documents relevant to this or that organization and the system of roles, regulations, and technologies that determines such collection. It's Koch, 2015. But I have this uncontrollable desire of giving flesh to the memory through dance and also through archiving. And I believe that working with dance archives, as I am learning here, it's a way to include contemporary dance made in southern Brazil in our cultural heritage. Thank you.